Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I am proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So I wanted to do a follow-up to the last video I had made, talking about Michael Jackson's song and his video Childhood, because Michael Jackson had done an interview where he had said that Childhood is his most autobiographical song that he's ever made, right? So he's talking about it being autobiographical, that he's saying how important it was, and he's saying if you want to know him, listen to Childhood. But one of the things is because I know Michael Jackson so well, and I know he's been living this double life, so when Michael Jackson says something like that about Childhood, I'm capable of making judgments about Michael Jackson's life, and I'll come out and say, no, Billie Jean is the most autobiographical song. It's Billie Jean is the one. But Michael can't come out really and say exactly that kind of stuff about Billie Jean, because Billie Jean is too autobiographical. It's too explaining of exactly what happened to him and exactly who Diana Ross, what she did to him, and how the situation developed and everything. So Billie Jean has too much, and so he can't come out and tell you that kind of thing about. So it's one of the kind of things about when you're listening to Michael Jackson, you got to understand you are listening to Michael Jackson, and it's like he's telling the truth, but he's not always telling exactly the truth, right? And so you got to be like on a level and be qualified to be able to judge him, which is what you don't find much in the Michael Jackson fandom, because they're not willing to have any understanding of who he actually is. Because that's why I say that this weird thing is how it's like, how can you be a fan of either Michael Jackson the person or of Michael Jackson's art, but you don't care about who he is and you don't care about the life that he's led, which creates the art? Really, really weird. It's really weird. It's sad that I have to go through this experience and I have to witness the personalities of the Michael Jackson fans, and to see how it's one of these things that I really love about my story. Is it shows how people, it's like, okay, here it is, and you got to make your own choice now. This is what evidence is. You claim to be this kind of person in the world. You claim this and you claim that. Now here's some evidence. Tell me your own, make up your own mind, make up your own decision, and they can't do it. And it's just really sad having to experience all that stuff, right? So I wanted to show you this other part to the Childhood song, right? Because it is an important, it's super important. Childhood's super important, and the video. So the last video, what I was saying, I was talking about the pine trees, that he's in a pine forest. And that pine trees, the pine forest and pine trees, pine is the state tree in Michigan, but it said that they're considered to be rare in the state of Indiana. You know, and it's just these little subtle details and stuff, right? So the other thing with the boats, I kind of never, because it's like, that kind of like ties into other stuff, so I didn't really go into the boats. But let me show you this one other thing about the boat and stuff, right? So let's go ahead and look at this. Okay, so now when you're looking at things, right, there's always things that you need to, as you become more observant of little details. Sorry, sometimes I get that little thing stuck, little itch in my throat. It makes me cough. So as when you're looking at little details, right? And so one of the things that you look at this is a detail. It's like, okay, well, they're sailboats, right? They're not motorboats, right? Those are sailboats. And now, what I want to show you about is the sailboat is, this is Disneyland. This is called Peter Pan's the flying ride or something. Let me see. It says it here when he goes. It says Peter Pan's Flight. Okay, Peter Pan's Flight. That's what the ride is actually called, right? So this is the Peter Pan ride at Disneyland. Okay, see? You see the thing? It's got the little sails here. Now, it's a pirate ship because it's like Peter Pan, right? But the boats that they're actually on, they're sailboats because they're Peter Pan. So that's one of the things I wanted to point out in the childhood is that they're sailboats. And so a sailboat, even though it's not a pirate boat on the childhood, the only kind of boats that I understand is like pirate ships. When I think of pirate ships, I always think of sailboats. And that's illustrated by this kind of thing, and it's also illustrated in this ride as the pirate ships, the sailboats, are flying above the city. Because now, in the movie Peter Pan, I don't know that the Peter Pan in the movie, I don't know that the boat ever flies. I know that like he flies or whatever. There's something like that. But I don't know about, and if there is the boat, it would be just a couple big boats, right? It's not like they're all in these little individual boats. So that's what I think that actual, the video of having them in the little sailboats flying over the forest and stuff, I think is mimicking this actual ride. Which is what I say with Peter Pan, because Michael is like, Peter Pan's the leader of the Lost Boys, who are all these abandoned and orphaned children. And that's what I say, here's that connection to orphaned and abandoned children and stuff, right? Which is the underlying story that nobody really ever understood because Michael is part of the Jackson family. So the one thing that you never see in Michael is an orphan. What you see in him is, oh, he loves children, and he feels sad for these children that don't have real families and stuff, right? So you see the stuff like that, and then you can connect it to Michael by saying, oh, well, he's got a lost childhood because he didn't get to go out and play baseball and stuff, right? He had a big band practice, and Joe worked him hard, right? But I always say, no, there's another thing there that none of us ever actually saw, was the reason that caused Michael so much damage is when he found out that he wasn't part of the Jackson family. Michael was just fine. When you see all the early videos of Michael going up to Motown and all the early performances, his personality's fine. He's fine. It's not till after Diana tells him the truth, then he has to develop living in that situation now for the rest of his life. That's where all the damage occurs, and then that's how he ends up being Peter Pan. That's how all this personality traits develop, right? So let's watch a little bit more of this ride. Okay, and so knowing Michael Jackson and how much he liked Disneyland and with his Neverland Valley Ranch, you know, and so off to Neverland, right? Like right there, off to Neverland. What's this? Michael Jackson's Neverland Valley Ranch, and then in the video Childhood, he's flying above the city in sailboats. He's flying above the forest in sailboats, which is to me mimicking this ride. He's mimicking the ride of the Peter Pan ride at Disneyland. And so that's what I'm saying is that the Childhood, when Michael's saying that song is so important, and when you see what's he actually mimicking, is like this Peter Pan stuff, which is all this stuff around all these abandoned orphan children. And they live in the secret world. And they got magical powers and stuff, right? That's what Michael Jackson... That's the personality. That's how you really see who he was. But you can't understand the person of who he actually was until you understand the actual life. Jeez, my fucking throat. You understand the actual life of what actually happened to him and the emotional trauma that he had to endure, which led him to becoming the person he was. Which he was gifted with all the talent from his God-given parents, Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson. But then he was abandoned, so he had to endure this other culture, this other life experience of what he had to do, which placed in him these other traits and stuff, which he shows off constantly in his artwork, in his actual personality, and the house that he built and stuff, where he lives. He constantly showed off that this was something else. There was something else that was majorly taking place, but nobody could ever understand what it was because of the simple fact of Michael being in the Jackson house. They covered it up. That cover-up worked. It worked really good. You know, and then with Joe making the band and everything, how he did everything, it worked. The people couldn't see it. But again, that's before the internet when all that stuff happened. It's not like, even if you had a hunch back then, it's not like you could just go find the information and stuff like what I've been able to do now in our modern time, where I can be able to find the videos and find the actual evidence and stuff and show you how all this stuff happens, right? So I just wanted to get a new video. I wanted to put this out, make sure that you guys understood also that the sailboats in the childhood video, to me, is referencing the actual Peter Pan ride at Disneyland, right? Off to Neverland, which is like I said, mimics Michael Jackson and the Peter Pan stuff and the Neverland Ranch, which is showing you that the childhood stuff, it's not about not playing baseball. It's not about the stuff of what everybody thinks. And like in the song Childhood, it says, he says, no one understands me. But everybody thinks, everybody that's a Michael Jackson fans, you all think that you know what Michael Jackson saying he didn't have a childhood, you all think that you know what that means. And I say no. And I say, and I look at, here's the evidence to show you that you don't actually understand what it is. It's not what you think you underthink it. It's not what you think it means. With Michael being fond of children and wanting to be like Peter Pan and stuff like that, and saying he didn't have a childhood. It's like, no, this other childhood, what he's talking about, no one understands him because he's somebody different that nobody ever understood him. This is a real thing that he actually had to deal with. And this is Michael Jackson's actual personal life and the issues and things that made him actually feel pain, made him hurt, right? Made him have a better understanding of what was actually going on in the world. But for some reason, the fans just refused to even look. It's like, how could you be a Michael Jackson fan? You can't even look at what Michael was actually doing with his art, what he was actually leaving behind for us, the actual message of what he was telling us, you know? And you just think that everything's about his shiny socks and shit. You think that that shit's more important than his actual art, the actual life of what he led, the story and the art that he left behind for us to be able to research and investigate and be able to find all this new experience and stuff. That's what the world needs. That's what can heal the world, is people being exposed to Michael Jackson's real life and being able to see the world through the mind of an actual artist and how he had to live, because his life is so well documented, to actually be able to really understand the life that he actually led. That's the kind of thing that can change the world, that can actually change the world. And that's the only way of how Michael Jackson can actually ever really change the world and stuff, is this. And it's so one thing is like when you say to the fans and stuff, it's like, dude, Michael did it now. He left it in the fans' hands. If you guys want to change the world, get the fans to understand my work. Get them to understand who I really am. You know, so it's like in the fans' hands now. And they don't seem to want anything to do with it, right? So, sorry, my throat was really messed up in this one, right? So, okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.